All right, ladies, let's talk about something real. Something most women feel but do not always know how to name. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself what really breaks a man's feelings over time? Does he fall out of love first and then lose respect? Or does respect fade first and love starts dying right after that? Most women spend so much time thinking about attraction, how to look better, how to sound sweeter, how to be more exciting, more wanted, more unforgettable. But here is the truth that a lot of people do not want to say out loud. Attraction may open the door, but respect is what makes a man stay in the room. Respect is what keeps him steady. Respect is what keeps him invested. Respect is what keeps him from treating the connection like a temporary thrill. And the second his view of you changes, the second his respect starts slipping, the whole energy shifts. His words change, his effort changes, his tone changes, the warmth cools off, the care starts looking forced. Now hear me clearly. A man can still be polite to you, still be kind to you, still smile at you, and still not deeply respect you in a romantic way. Those are not the same thing. Romantic respect is built on how he reads your self-worth, your standards, your emotional control, your boundaries, and the kind of value you carry into the relationship without begging anyone to notice it. So the real question is this: what are the quiet little habits, the subtle behaviors, the easy-to-miss patterns that slowly drain a man's respect even when he still likes you, still wants you around, or still enjoys your company? If you are new here, my name is Ismael Gomez, and today I want to walk you through 7 things that quietly destroy a man's respect. And once you see them clearly, once you stop doing them and start moving differently, you will stop shrinking your value in his eyes and start showing up as the kind of woman a man cannot help but take seriously. So let's get into it. Number 1, apologizing for your standards. I see this all the time. So many women are scared that if they speak plainly, they will come off as too much, too needy, too intense, too demanding. So instead of standing firm, they soften everything. They water down what they really want. They package their standards like an apology. They act like wanting consistency is asking for the moon. But let's be honest. Standards are not demands. Standards are direction. Standards are clarity. Standards are how you communicate what kind of experience you are available for and what kind of experience you are not. Imagine you are talking to a man and everything seems good. The conversations are flowing, he is reaching out, there is momentum. Then out of nowhere, he disappears. 1 day passes, then 2, then 3. Then 5 days later, he pops back up like nothing happened. Now in that moment, a lot of women panic internally. They think, I do not want to sound dramatic. I do not want to start a problem. I do not want him to think I am clingy. So they say nothing. Or worse, they say, no worries, I totally get it, even when they do not get it and do not like it. But there is a powerful way to handle that moment without sounding needy at all. You can simply say, I enjoy talking with you, but consistency matters to me when I am getting to know someone. That is not chasing. That is not begging. That is not an emotional meltdown. That is a standard. You are not forcing him to become somebody else. You are not trying to control his behavior. You are revealing how you move so he can decide whether he is capable of meeting you there. That is confidence. But the moment you start over-explaining your standard, defending it, shrinking it, or apologizing for it, your energy changes. You stop sounding grounded and start sounding unsure. And when a man feels that uncertainty, he starts sensing that your standards are flexible whenever you are afraid to lose him. That is when respect begins to crack. Number 2, using physical closeness to cover up emotional confusion. This one is sneaky because it often feels like connection, when in reality it is avoidance dressed up like intimacy. You like him. You want to feel close to him. You want him to feel bonded to you. And without even noticing it, you begin offering more physical access as a way to pull emotional security out of him. Somewhere in your mind, the hope starts whispering, maybe if he feels good with me, maybe if he enjoys being around me, maybe if I keep him satisfied, he will want something deeper. But from a male point of view, when there is no emotional grounding, physical intimacy can become recreational instead of meaningful. It can become convenient instead of deep. It does not automatically create closeness. In many cases, it actually lets him stay emotionally lazy because he is already getting the benefits without having to define anything. You are handing over husband-level access before you have even confirmed whether he has boyfriend-level intention. What feels like bonding to you may feel casual to him. You think touch will create clarity, but often it removes the pressure for clarity because now he does not have to step up to keep the connection going. Ask yourself this: if he is already getting your body, your softness, your affection, your time, and your emotional energy without real responsibility, what is pushing him to be clear? What is inviting him to rise? Nothing. And that is why physical closeness without emotional substance often leaves women even more confused. You think the bond is deepening, while he may think the arrangement is staying pleasantly undefined. And the more undefined it stays, the easier it becomes for respect to weaken, because your actions begin saying, "I will give a lot even when I am getting little in return." Number 3, trying to explain your value. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen gold argue for its worth? Have you ever watched something truly precious run around trying to convince people that it matters? Of course not. Value that is real does not need a sales pitch. It does not need a performance. It does not need a desperate speech. It is recognized by those who have the eyes to recognize it. But when women start feeling unseen, they often slip into proving mode. They say things like, "Look how much I do for you. Nobody will love you the way I do. You will never find another woman like me. I have been so good to you." And I understand where that comes from. It usually comes from pain. It comes from wanting to be chosen. It comes from wanting your effort to be acknowledged. But the second you start listing your value, you are no longer sitting in it. You are campaigning for it. And that shift matters. Because what a man hears underneath all that explaining is not strength. He hears, "Please confirm that I matter. Please reassure me that I am enough." And that energy changes the whole emotional frame. The most powerful women do not perform their worth. They do not beg to be properly seen. They express value through their presence, their standards, their choices, their emotional steadiness, and especially through what they are willing to walk away from. That is what lands. That is what hits. That is what creates respect. And if a man needs you to break down your value like a presentation, just so he can maybe appreciate it, that usually means he does not have the depth to honor it anyway. Number 4, getting lost in how much you like him instead of calmly evaluating him. This happens all the time. A woman meets a man she feels chemistry with, and suddenly her whole focus zooms in on how good he makes her feel. He is charming. He is attractive. He makes her laugh. The conversations are electric. The vibe feels easy. The tension feels hot. The butterflies are loud. And before she knows it, she has spent all her energy admiring him and almost none of it assessing him. She can tell you every detail about how intense the spark feels, but she has barely paused to ask whether he is emotionally available, whether he is consistent, whether he has integrity, whether he is capable of partnership, whether his actions match his words, or whether he is even aligned with the kind of future she says she wants. Liking somebody is easy. Attraction is easy. Chemistry is cheap. And if you constantly feel like it is rare to meet someone you really like, that usually points to scarcity energy. It means you are treating one man's attention like a rare event, instead of remembering that there are many people in the world and many possible connections. When you are in scarcity, you do not evaluate clearly. You attach quickly. You overlook red flags. You excuse bad patterns because you are so relieved to feel something. But liking a man should never cancel your ability to assess him. You are allowed to enjoy the spark and still ask, "Is this actually good for me?" You are allowed to feel desire and still question his consistency. You are allowed to smile, flirt, feel butterflies, and still remain awake. Because if you stop evaluating and start only reacting, you become vulnerable to confusing, draining, one-sided situations with men who were never truly equipped to meet you. Number 5, accepting excuse after excuse for weak effort. Let's be honest. A lot of the time, the problem is not even the excuses he gives you. The bigger problem is the excuses you give yourself so you do not have to face what his behavior really means. You tell yourself it is not that serious. You say maybe he is just stressed. You say maybe you are overthinking. You say maybe this is just how men are. You say you do not want to be dramatic. On the surface, that can sound mature. It can sound patient. It can sound emotionally intelligent. But very often there is fear hiding under all that. Fear that if you call the truth what it is, you might lose the connection. Fear that if you raise your standard, he might not rise with it. Fear that if you speak plainly, you will have to accept an answer you do not want. And so you keep swallowing disappointment. But every time you repeatedly accept low effort, even in small ways, you are training him. You are teaching him that inconsistency still gets rewarded, that lateness still gets access, that empty words still buy more time, that weak effort still keeps you available. And from a man's perspective, if there are no consequences, there is no pressure to improve. If you stay open no matter what, urgency disappears. Respect shrinks because your standards begin to look decorative instead of real. I want to share one phrase that can be powerful in moments like this. My partner sometimes says, "You know you are better than that." That line lands because it is calm. It is direct. It is not chaos. It does not attack. It does not scream. It simply holds a mirror up. It calls a person higher without begging them. That is the energy. Strong, clear, and self-respecting. Number 6, over-explaining your feelings until the message gets buried. This is one of the fastest ways to lose impact, even when your emotions are valid. And I know it usually comes from a sincere place. You want to be understood. You want to give context. You want to explain where you are coming from so you will not be misread. But the more you pile on, the more you soften, defend, and qualify every feeling, the more your message starts sounding shaky. It starts sounding like you are not fully sure you are allowed to feel what you feel. And that is when the whole thing gets messy. What could have been one clear sentence turns into 10 nervous paragraphs. What could have been a calm truth turns into a long emotional maze. He stops hearing the actual point because he is too busy processing the flood. Instead of feeling invited into clarity, he feels trapped in pressure. Instead of looking forward to the interaction, he starts bracing for emotional exhaustion. This is why communication is such a powerful skill. Nobody really teaches most people how to express feelings cleanly. A lot of people think being honest means saying every thought in your head. It does not. Real communication is not about saying more. It is about saying what matters in a way that can be heard. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to become harsh. You do not need to hide your emotions. You just need to become cleaner with your words. Clarity beats length every single time. In relationships, just like in life, impact often lives in simplicity. Instead of a giant speech, you can say something like, "Consistency matters to me," or "That did not sit right with me," or "If something has changed, I would rather know than guess." Short, clear, direct, mature. That kind of communication carries weight because it shows you trust your own feelings enough not to bury them under extra noise. Number 7, erasing your own voice and calling it being easygoing. A lot of women think being agreeable all the time makes them safer to love. They think if they are flexible enough, chill enough, low maintenance enough, never difficult, never opinionated, always sweet, always easy, then a man will see them as special and irreplaceable. But in reality, constant agreeableness often makes a woman fade into the background. It does not always make her lovable. Sometimes it makes her forgettable. This can sound like, "Whatever you want, baby, you pick. I do not mind. Anything is fine." And maybe in your mind you are thinking, "I am letting him lead. I am being feminine. I am being supportive." But leadership is not the same thing as your disappearance. Letting a man lead does not mean becoming blank. It does not mean muting your desires. It does not mean swallowing your personality. Real connection needs your presence, your taste, your ideas, your preferences, your no, your yes, your spark. When every suggestion he makes gets met with total neutrality, there is nothing for him to engage with. No contrast, no texture, no surprise, no reflection of who you really are. Over time, that creates emptiness. Healthy men do not want a shadow. They do not want a woman who agrees with everything and contributes nothing. They want a woman who can flow with them and still bring something alive into the room. A woman who can support and still challenge. A woman who can receive and still reveal herself. Your opinions matter. Your preferences matter. Your standards matter. Your point of view matters. That is part of what makes you magnetic. If you erase all of that, if you let him lead every conversation, every decision, every plan, every dynamic without ever hearing your real voice, then yes, you become easier to replace because there is so little of you actually present in the relationship. And let me say one more thing before we wrap this up, because this matters more than most people realize. A lot of women think respect is something mysterious, something a man either gives or does not give based on his mood, his past, or how attracted he is. But respect is also shaped by what your energy keeps teaching him. If every time he pulls back you chase harder, he learns that distance gives him power. If every time he disappoints you, you explain it away for him, he learns that effort is negotiable. If every time you feel hurt, you bury the truth under sugar, he learns that your boundaries bend when your emotions get involved. That is why these patterns are dangerous. They do not just hurt you in the moment. They build a relationship where your feelings become easy to overlook. And once that pattern sets in, a woman starts feeling unseen, unheard, and strangely lonely even while talking to somebody every day. So do not just ask, does he like me? Ask, what am I teaching him about how to treat me? Do not just ask, how do I keep him interested? Ask, does the way I show up make it clear that I respect myself? Because when self-respect gets loud, confusion gets quieter. You stop rushing to fill silence. You stop panicking over mixed signals. You stop twisting yourself into a softer, smaller version just to keep a shaky connection alive. And trust me, that shift is magnetic. It changes your face, your tone, your timing, your choices, and the kind of men who feel comfortable approaching you in the first place. So when you step back and look at all 7 of these patterns, what do they all have in common? They are not really about men. They are about what happens when you disconnect from your own value in the hope of securing love. They are about self-abandonment wearing pretty clothes. They are about trying to keep connection by reducing yourself. And that strategy never pays off for long. Because love without respect becomes unstable. Attention without respect becomes temporary. Desire without respect becomes shallow. The shift you need is not into becoming cold, hard, masculine, or emotionally distant. The shift is into becoming clear. Clear in what you allow. Clear in what you accept. Clear in how you speak. Clear in what you need. Clear in what you notice. Clear in what you do when something does not feel right. That kind of clarity is powerful. It is sexy. It is rare. And men feel it immediately. And when that happens, you stop acting like every connection is your last chance at love. You stop bargaining with your own standards. You stop calling bare minimum effort potential. You stop romanticizing confusion. Once that shift locks in, the wrong men drift away fast and the right ones straighten up. Before I let you go, I want to show you a quick example because I know so many of you enjoy when I share these before and after messages from clients. A client once wrote a text she was about to send to a man. Her first version said something like, I just felt maybe you were distant last night, and I know I can be overly sensitive sometimes. I have been hurt before, so maybe I am overreacting, but I just wanted to say something. Now read the energy in that. She is not only expressing a feeling, she is apologizing for the feeling before she even names it. She is cushioning it, shrinking it, managing his reaction, protecting herself from rejection before the conversation has even started. So we changed it. The final message became, I noticed some distance last night. If something has shifted, I would rather know than guess. Same emotion, totally different energy. The first message asks for permission to feel. The second message stands in truth. The first one trembles, the second one lands. And the result was powerful. He drove to her house that same night, they had an honest conversation, and the dynamic shifted because now he was responding to clarity instead of anxiety. That is what I want for you. Not games, not manipulation, not pretending you do not care. I want you to become so rooted in your own worth that your words stop leaking fear. I want your standards to sound clean. I want your energy to feel solid. I want your presence to say, I know who I am, and I do not need to chase respect from anyone. Because the truth is, when a woman respects herself deeply, she moves differently. She listens better. She chooses better. She speaks better. She leaves sooner when something is wrong. She does not waste time trying to convince the wrong man to treat her right. She becomes the kind of woman whose softness has spine, whose kindness has standards, whose love has discernment, and whose presence leaves a mark. So if this spoke to you, take a breath and be honest with yourself. Which one of these patterns have you been slipping into? Where have you been shrinking? Where have you been handing over access too cheaply? Where have you been explaining instead of embodying? Where have you been reacting instead of evaluating? Catch it, clean it up, and move differently. Because for your relationships to change, you have to change first. All right, ladies, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And as always, have a beautiful day.